Hey again guys, so welcome back again. So this will be, I'm going to polish these pieces up, but this is going on the start of this next video. Well, it is on the start of this next video, because I've already rendered the other one from this morning, or from today. So I'm just going to polish these couple bits up. Let's put it down here anyway. So this is the piece that's off the front of the gearbox, where the I assume where the clutch release would run on, I'm guessing. So I'm just going to give it a light sand up. Got about 800 wet and dry, and I got a little bit of water and dish soap in this bottle. I'm not going to get it super wet or anything. I just want to run it for a little bit and just clean it up, just see what it looks like underneath. But I'll turn it on and I'll do it, and then I've got that shaft to do for the clutch fork. Yeah, right, so that was, yeah, as you can see, with the machine marks are actually in it. It was never like a super high polished finish or anything. It was probably very, just a quick cut to make sure it was within tolerance, and that was probably left. It's probably like a lot of things, unless it was probably like a crankshaft or something like that. They probably didn't get too fussy. Well, as long as it was within reasonable spec and everything fitted, they probably didn't get fussy. So I'm not going to get any more fussy than that. You could get stupid, but you don't want it way undersized or anything silly like that, because I'm assuming that the that clutch release bearing, or bearing that runs on the end of the fingers of the clutch, will be running on here. So I just want to make sure it was cleaned and wasn't rough texture like when it's been sandblasted. Let's give it a fairly nice wee polish up for what it is. It's going to be probably any amount as good as what it was, apart from the little bit of rust pitting, but it is what it is. We'll give this shaft here a clean up now. Like, if you're going to make it any better than that, you might as well make a new one. It's pretty beaten up. But probably the only thing you could possibly do would be actually just take a little bit off the end of this, because it's actually a little bit flared out. But should be right. You can see it's actually been attacked at that end at some time before. So I could just run that up to it and just take a little bit off that edge off. But the biggest problem is it doesn't run very true. I can put it way back in there, I suppose. Or even run a file across it. I might just run a file across it and see if I can just take a little bit of that edge off for a minute. Hard today. Just taking it off there now anyway. It's not very hard at all. So that's clean up as good as they're going to be. Also, we'll see you tomorrow. Bye. Morning, guys. So back here again. So, as you've seen in the few seconds ago, no, it's good. That's how I could hit a video clips anyway. A few hours ago for me, but a few seconds ago for you. Got these sort of cleaned up and sorted, so I got that back here. So I'll finish having a clean up here with this gearbox and just see how much more I sort of need to dive into it. What I might try and see if I can get the owners to get is maybe a parts wash or something like that, especially with sandblasting parts. Like if you start going inside gearboxes, not that I really want to sandblast internal gears, but it would still be nice to actually give them a good wash out and then rinse them in like brake clean or parts cleaner or something like after that, you know, to try and make sure they're really spotlessly clean. Put that back together at some point. So I might try and organise that. That would be handy too. Yeah, just I'll carry on with that. I'll stop trying to waffle and I'll film a bit, and then I'll play with probably the. Well, yeah, I don't know if I'll play with the diff, but I'd like to try and maybe piece this back together and sit it, actually sort of bolt it in the car. I could possibly, because I could, oh mind you, I don't know where the bolts are for the bow housing though either. Because it would sit on the bow housing, not that I really want to support it on the bow housing like that, attach to the engine. Because it might be just detrimental to the aluminium bow housing. I don't know how strong that is with age, you know what I mean? Like it would be safer if it was bolted to the engine. But because it's not terribly heavy, I could lift it in there quite easily by myself. But it'd just be nice to know where it sort of sat. Or I could take some rough measurements anyway. Anyway, I'll get to playing with this a bit more and clean up a few more pieces and then possibly put it back together. I actually wonder if it's, I don't know, if you guys see this, I just wonder if I can get like glass beads, or not that I don't know if that'll fit in there, because it probably won't. Even if it's just a casing, I just think it would be too big and awkward in there. But can you get like the glass beads and stuff to go on there? Like, would that work through that system, or would it really need to be through something a little bit bigger? You know, like some of the bigger media blasting, you know, that you'd actually like blast cars with from a distance. It goes through quite a big nozzle. I just wonder if you can get the beads to do that, or whether is it worth it, or just get somebody else to do it. But anyway, because it'd be nice to have that already cleaned up. Like I could, you know, I can sand it and clean it and scrub it, but media blasting would be a lot quicker, and you know, with a better result probably. But anyway, I'll stop crapping on. So that's those little bits, the like drain plug and the filler plug and stuff. I did that plate. Probably needs another go. I might have another go at that, just see if I can make it look a bit better. Pull it down a bit harder, but it was quite scabby. I could all clean up alright, but I might have another go, see if I can get it down a bit harder. But yeah, I was trying to decide what I'm going to do here next. Whether I actually pull this box right down or not. See if this gear lever selector fits in here. So whatever we plug that, poke that back in there. And then I'll decide what I'm going to do. This thing. See whether I strip this down any further, because again, I wouldn't mind just giving this a light blast, just mainly to get, because this has never been machined very super high tolerance either. Like the front of that shaft, probably yes, and I can tape that up if I have to, but just be nice just to give the front of that shaft a blast, just get rid of any scabby shit off it. The inside of this is, you know, it's got a little bit of rust on some of these gears, but like it's not something you really want to. I wouldn't imagine sandblasting that's going to help that any. Yeah, like, you know, some other sort of sandblast, or not bit media, some other sort of type of media might be alright, but I definitely won't use the. Well, it's not sand, it's garnet. I'm pretty sure that's garnet. Would be okay. You could use something else, you know, like glass beads or whatever. You know, something that's not quite so aggressive, and doesn't leave that real rough texture, because you don't want rough texture in here. You know, it might even better just, if I stripped it down, it might even better just clean it up with a wire wheel or something too. You know, just clean it up. Just make sure there's no other rust in there. But like, this needs all cleaned out, because it's all dirty in there. Well, it's not real dirty, but it's like, you know, it's just grit and shit from the years. And then obviously, see if we can get this glass bead blasted or something, just to really bring it up nice. Like it would have been. But I'll just see what the owner wants to do too. He might just, you know, say, "Oh, just give it a clean up." But well, I'll give this gear lever just a light going over, and see where we're at. Righty, so I'm just screwing around putting this back together. I've just been cleaning up a few little bits and pieces. The Woodruff key and that and the speedo gear drive was a bit doggy and was kept catching. So I gently actually just put it in a pair of vice grips and just crank this thing up and just gave it a wee gentle touch on the end of it, just to clean some of the burrs off it. There was a little ridge on this shaft, so I just run a tiny little file over it. I didn't film any of it because I was too busy listening to DD Speed Shop at the same time as I was videoing, so I can't do both. I haven't got two phones here. So I'm just about to put the bolts and everything back in here, but I've noticed one of them still got a bit of crap in the end of it, so I'll clean that up, give it another wee blast in the end of it. Because like I said, I'd like to bloody see if I can get that's actually something I forgot to, talking to the owner this morning. He said I can just jump up there and just grab whatever rods up there I need. They're just parts cars for whatever gets built on this and that other one out at some point. You know, there's just spare parts, obviously, so that's cool. But yeah, I wouldn't want a wire wheel on one of these to buff up bits, bolts and whatever. It would be save a little bit of buggering around with and trying to sandblast. And sandblast works good, but it is awkward too, because you're trying to hold it with those big meaty sort of gloves. So not quite so easy to hold, but I'll give that end of that bolt another sandblast. So it goes in there freely. I did that gear stick, I'm not sure if I showed you that before or not. I sandblasted all that. I just gave it a light. That crossed the alloy, I just very gently, I just brushed it across there and just held the trigger just very gently, so it was only just lightly dusting across there and in there. And I've given it a good dose with some, I'll give it a good blowout with just air, and then put a whole heap of CRC and everything in here. I lightly dusted across the forks too, because there was just a little bit of corrosion on there. I didn't really go crazy or anything. Just gave them a light blast as I was going around the rest of it. But yeah, just gave it a good blowout and then sprayed a Hyper CRC in there just so help to flush the grit out. Like we'll give it a decent wash out eventually, but I just want to piece it back together so it's not all in bits sitting everywhere, because it will need properly going through, but I'm just bolting it back together so nothing gets lost. But at least now it's all sort of, the bits are mainly cleaned up. We'll strip the gears out and everything out later on when we get past this dirty stage, if you know what I mean, when we're actually getting into full prep and got all, finished making a lot of dust. Then we'll strip this down and strip that down, and clean everything up properly, rinse it and wash it and whatever. Let's turn the camera around. Yeah, we'll rinse it and wash it properly and all that sort of crap. But yeah, I just want to get this back together, and yeah, and just go from there. And then I might jump upstairs and have a look at some of those rods and bits and pieces, see what's up there, see if there's something that's going to look like it's going to fit those back brake setup. So yeah, I'll get this together and yeah, carry on. So I might film that, me just puttering around bolting it together, or just do it on high speed. But yeah. Plug my phone in. Let's charge them while I'm doing it. I don't recommend it, but I will. Oh. So what I'm going to do is, before I put this part back together, I'm actually going to sandblast these bits and bolts and everything, and then slowly see if I can get these out, because it's got like little washers you can see in amongst. Then see if I can get it all apart and clean it all up. Whether we use these bits of whatever this is, I don't know, it looks like canvas and rubber all glued together. I'll get it apart and get these bolts and everything all freed up anyway, so at least we can pull them apart and replace them and whatever if we need to. There's actually more of those over there. I actually thought it might have been, I didn't realise it was like a whole stack of 3 joined together, which will probably be the same on the other end of the diff as well. Yeah, there's a whole heap of them in there. So it's obviously the same situation. It's like got 3 sandwiched together for the drive. So it's basically universal. Old school. Hey, it lasted that long. If that's original, it's pretty good. Anyway, I'll sandblast the ends of these bolts and bits and pieces and just see if I can slowly work all this apart and then clean them up and clean everything up and put it back together again. And I'll poke it back in here so none of the bits get lost. So I'll do that. I'll just do that off camera. And so I got these out of those, what do you want to call them? Those round rubber, canvasy, donut drive coupling things. Jeez, that was long-winded. So I'll give these all a sandblast now. and separate all the washers off and give them all just sandblast off. Get these all cleaned up. At least they'll be ready to go then. Also, tool shed. Put some decent clamps on these stupid freaking blasting cabinets. Not just a Phillips head. Put a, like you say, you can put a socket on it. You actually put a bit of paint on it. So I've just pushed that bloody glove out again. Like I've only been using it 3 or 4 weeks, and it's the second time I've had to put this glove back on, and it's not easy because it's always the far away one. Anyway, righty, so I fixed that again, and I've sandblasted all these bits. Had half my original cleanup, so now I should better screw that all back to, bolt it all back together. Whether I probably won't put those donut things back on here. I'll just, I might just put the 3 in here that hold this on, and just screw them up, I suppose, just so it holds that drum on. And yeah, I'll just leave the other ones loose, or I might just push the other ones back through those holes without the washers in between it, and yeah, just sit it together. And Joey, I think you need to lay off the pizza, bro. One of these on here, depending on which one it was meant to be. I'm guessing probably this one, and poke through the foil. And that's obviously that handbrake. If this is up the right way, pulled down. Anyway, so I've sort of done everything I can do there at the time, apart from major cleanup when it needs to be assembled and whatever. And what can I work on now? I'll get this out of the road anyway. Don't know what the hell you're going to see, but anyway. Probably should I ask. So it's probably one of the, I guess that's a door, one of the original doors off the back. Grey door. Pattern maybe. know that before. Right. So that tells me something. This is not the same model gearbox because this doesn't have a bolt-off housing. It's cast, but this here looks very similar. Not the same, but similar. This is sort of the same. Alright, so there's a bracket there. I've seen that before. Alright, so that's cool. Just got a different clutch set up on it. There's a thing down there like that. There's a bracket down there like that. So that tells me a little bit more about the gearbox. So that's cool. Sometimes, you know, until you actually find another piece to have a look at. This could be back brake rods off a different year. So this could have been off one that's had front and back brakes. Because that would say is that same sort of setup. It's not on a thing. Could be wrong. I don't think it will help me or not, but it's worth going down there and maybe pulling these back bits off. All these bits off and see if they look like they'll reach. So I'll throw these down. Really gonna hurt, you know. And before I go down, I'll take up which is that gearbox stuff. Tell you what, that cow would be pretty cool to build a rat rod off, wouldn't it? Even if you just used that bit and made the rest. Righty. So, I'll drag one of these, a couple of these down, obviously. You've seen me, well, I threw them down there anyway. So I'll see if I can get at least one of these ends off. If one of them is going to work, I don't know, but it'll give us an idea. See, this could have quite have been easily actually with a brake pedal hooked on a later model car, like 27, they had front and back brakes. It's not to say that this here, that shaft that goes through near the back on this one wasn't near the front on the later model ones, and then it pulled for both brake, both front and back brakes, because that would make sense. So when you push the pedal, it turn this and then pull the front and back brakes on. So this was possibly just an extension. Whether these are the right length, who would know? But to give them more an idea, and like I said, if we have to make them, we have to make them. But it's been nice to have a bit more of an idea of a ballpark figure. Like I can use that pin, stick it through those little bits and just see, okay, that's like a foot too long or 6 inches too long, and we can adjust, modify, whatever, or if this one here might be long enough, that one might be too long, this one might be perfect, we don't know. So we'll find out. I'll pull that apart in a minute. Pull one apart to start off anyway. And then that piece I was looking at in that gearbox, that's the release bearing of the clutch. So it's got like an oiler. You obviously put a little bit of so every time you drive it, fill this up full of oil, obviously, or fairly regularly anyway. Screw that back on. So that's a lubricator basically, and then it's the bearing right in here. Like, that's a pretty slick. It's a pretty slick piece of kit for back then. It would have taken a bit of thinking, you know. That's pretty cool. So that's another piece. You have to be pretty careful with that because, like, I don't know where you would get a bearing like that. Like, that's got to be pretty unique to that. I can't imagine they, made thousands of those for different things. Like, that's a pretty unique clutch bearing. So we'll try not to fill that full of crap, if you know what I mean. I assume we can get that apart and clean it up and whatever. Yeah, that's pretty neat piece of kit. You'll see it's got some little holes in there, which are probably to maybe to push that bearing out. I'll find out a little bit more info. I'm guessing that's what you would do. You would knock this in and out. Looks very dubious though, like getting that in and out. That wouldn't be terribly nice. But yeah, we'll give that a clean up anyway. Re-grease it and whatever. I might just rinse that in an oil bath. I might just give that a scrub of the wire brush type sort of thing to try and keep the grit and shit away from it. And just give it a really good rinse out because it wouldn't start feels seriously nice, but it might be alright with a clean up, and a re-grease and everything. It might feel better. Get rid of all the old shit out of it. So we'll do that. I'll go stick this over here away from all the beads and crap. Meantime, and I'll try and get one of these off. We'll have to do that with the vise. So then use one of these split pins out. I'll probably have to run a bit of heat. We'll just check how I'm going for time, and we'll have a play with that. I had a few minutes to try and get this apart. So how do we play? Soak it and work on that later, maybe tomorrow, because I can't come down here tonight, so I'm going to take young fods to Scouts. So I might just call it here. Yeah, I haven't got a bloody lighter. I must took it back home and didn't bring it back. I'll go buy one. So I got one here, or something anyway. Light a gas plant, so I got some, so I can use it. So yeah. Anyway, I might do a bit of a shout, another shout out, I suppose. Just tag a few on. Hold on. Well, hey again, guys. So I thought I'd do a shout out. I ran out of time earlier on when I was working on that Studebaker. But I just found another channel. Basically today, I've written it down because I've sort of been flicking through a few videos. Anyway, this channel hasn't been around very long. He's actually had a channel for quite a while, like quite a few years, and he posted up a couple of sporadic videos like over the last, how many years he's actually had a channel for, but in the last couple of months he's sort of just started obviously working on some stuff. So he's got a Nova 59 El Camino and a rat rod that he's sort of been working on, obviously, over time. All these cars sort of need a bit of work. 59 El Camino needs sort of gone through. The Nova's sort of running and needs, it's got a few issues. Needs some rust work and lots of stuff and everything. The rat rod sort of been half built, but never finished. By the sounds of it, it runs. The El Camino's got no engine in it, but sounds like he's got all the parts and everything to make it run. But he's wherever the property of his is, I think he's renting, that he's working on these cars. There's some bush right beside it. In this bush or forest, there is a 48 F5 Ford bus. It was obviously used by a church group or something way back in the day. So the guy that owns the property had a mate that must have had this bus there, and for some reason had parked it way back in the bush. Must have been playing around with it, and there's some old boat parks and all sort of crap all around it. But it's like I don't know how far in the bush, but it's in the bush. It's covered in moss and crap and everything. But he's just the last video, he got the motor to run. It's got a Y block in it. Instead of that, I presume it probably would have had a flathead in it originally, but it's got a later model Y block in it. He just got it running. So he's going to try and get it so he can drive it out of the bush. How much bush he has to clear to get it out, because it's been in there a while. But it looks fairly solid. It doesn't look like it's really rotten and falling to pieces. From the backstory from a couple of videos I've just been watching, I've sort of been flicking through. He hasn't got many videos, probably a dozen or so, maybe a few more than that. I've just been watching some of his videos. From the backstory, it's been in there about 15 to 20 years thereabouts. I don't really know. Supposedly drove when it went in there. So it's been sitting, and it's obviously got full of rats and whatever else that's been living in the area. It's filled it full of crap, and the motor was like, the engine bay was like just full of sticks and leaves and all sorts of junk. So he's cleaned it out to the best he can. He's got the motor running, and then he's going to try and I think he's going to try and get the brakes to work, the clutch to work, and all that sort of stuff, and then try and drive it out. Looks like the tyres are still inflated, but it's sort of sunken down in the ground. So it's definitely well worth watching. One of these up and coming channels. So go watch him. It's pretty much all I'm going to do. I'm going to try and find the odd new channel over time, over the next few weeks. All my other ones, all my other go-tos, like Sobering and DD Speed Chop and Half-Fast Customs. All these guys, David Scott Rods, Arco and Heidi at Outlaw Ridge. All those guys, Bad Ombre. So I'm just going to try and find a few new channels and give them a shout out. So every 2 or 3 days, once I sort of find something that's interesting or that I really like. So these guys only just been making videos for a couple of months. This channel's been around for a while, but it's pretty sporadic sort of stuff back in the day. But yeah, it's just been starting to pump out some videos. Quite interesting. So yeah, go have a look. He's got a few subs. He's got quite a few subs now, 600 odd. So about the same sort of figure as me. But yeah, definitely well worth watching, and it'll be interesting to see how he gets on with this bus and getting it out there, because it's pretty cool. Alright guys, catch you later on.